to the cloud. All right, and we're going to get onto Facebook. There we go. That's one. And zooming there. And then we're going to go to this one. And so many things going on. All right, a couple of things going. Okay, once we get there, select. All right. Okay, so we are going to get started in a second or two once all of these links are clicking. All right, let's see what we've got here. And here we go. All right, so let me just update this and we will get going here. All right, there we go. All right, so that is on. That is on as well. Okay, got it. Okay, so it looks like we are on in a bunch of places, so we will get going here. All right, and I'm going to make sure that I am looking over at the Facebook comments in case anything comes through. So if you are joining me live on Facebook, please feel free to send me your comments and questions through the comment box, and I will answer that way. As well, I am streaming on YouTube, and I don't get the comments there as quickly, but we will keep testing out both platforms until something else goes. Okay, so welcome to Money Matters. We are October the 30th. So my kid is reminding me that tomorrow is Halloween. So lots of happiness around Halloween timeframe. So I am Hung Lu. I am with Cash Property Inc. And today we will be looking at some deals and answering any of your real estate questions that you have sent in. So I do have a couple. So we will be going for about 45 minutes. So today, rather than looking at a specific deal, I was going to bring up two industry reports to share them with you and just sort of talk about where I go to get some of my data and to sort of get some ideas. And then if we have time within that, what I will also do is give you updates on two of the properties that we actually looked at on one of our previous live streams. So I will make a note to chat about that with you. Okay, because there was two updates. So one was an 8-plex in Vancouver, and then the other one was an assumable mortgage in North Battleford. So I will give you guys an update on both of those properties because it was pretty amazing that it was like sort of the same situation in both of those. Okay, so we will do that. So before we get into the heart of everything, I want to make sure that I mention that all of the ideas and comments that I make on this show is really just my ideas and my thought process. So before you go and implement any of it, please go and check with a lawyer, accountant, another friend within real estate, and just make sure that it's right for you before you go and implement any of the strategies that I am sharing. Okay, so I'm getting some comments come in. Okay, hello everybody. Okay, so thank you. All right, so we will put that one aside. So just a shout out as well. I want to say thank you to Lisa, who invited me to a real estate networking event about a week and a half ago. And so I want to say thank you because at that networking event, it was nice to meet other like-minded individuals who were already active in real estate and individuals who were willing to take the afternoon out and talk and share and help each other out. So as part of that, I also want to give a shout out to Jamie at 7 Seas and his lovely wife, Leah. It was really great to meet the both of you. And to Anuta, I hope your art gets out there and a lot of people love it. I was blown away by the pictures of your art. And I want to take a second just to, say that I'm so grateful for meeting new investors coming in because one, it shows me that people are constantly willing to take the steps to get into real estate and take your financial situation into your own hands. So congratulations to you guys on doing that. I also want to give a shout out to Melissa. Hi, Melissa in Ontario. Congratulations on getting your own mortgage. I'm so proud of you. This is a huge step, especially in the economic situation that we're in right now with high interest rates. So for you to be able to get your own mortgage and just get into your own home, that's so amazing. So congratulations on that. One last shout out to Tamara Lee. I've seen so much growth in you over the last, I would say, month and a half in terms of your real estate journey. And so I just want to say high five to you, girlfriend. Congratulations, and keep working on that growth of yours. I know you're going to do amazing as you go. All right, so let's go into the, it's part of the deal analysis, and I'm going to show you guys right now where I go and get some of my industry data. Okay, and this stuff is available to everyone. So it's not like it's not like it's paid information. It's not like it's secret or anything. Like, it's available on the internet if you know where to look. So let me share with you my screen. All right, so let's see here. Where is it? All right, so here you'll see some PDFs come up. There's two of them. Okay, this one is from Colliers. Okay. Oh, let me just make sure I'm at the right one here. Okay, so both of these documents are from Colliers. They're one of the bigger firms out there. You can also go and get this information from other sources. Okay, so CMHC is another website that you can go on and get their quarterly reports for different areas. I like looking at all of the reports just to get sort of like a range of data that's coming in. Okay, so this one is from Q2, so quarter 2 of 2023, so pretty recent. Okay, so this is the Canada cap rate. So I like looking at cap rates. Okay, now keep in mind that cap rate is only one indication of how you should be analyzing your data. It's not the only thing that you should be looking at, okay? Because the cap rate itself is flawed in a way, depending on how you look at it, because it's based on, and let me just make sure that I can show you guys this, because I wrote this out. So one of the ways that I remember cap rate, or how to use cap rate, is I remember my Uncle Vic. Okay, now I don't really have an Uncle Vic, but I just remember Uncle Vic because it's an easy way to remember how cap rates work. So I'm going to put this up on front of the screen and see if you guys can see that. And of course, it's going a bit blurry out there because of the background. Okay, so you could see the triangle, and as you can see, part of the triangle is the I on top, V and C at the bottom. So if you write this triangle out, it'll make sense. Okay, so VIC for Vic. Okay, so it's your NOI, so your net operating income, equals your cap rate. So in this report, you're going to see a bunch of cap rates across Canada, and then times the value. So now this value, the Vic part, the V part, it's either your purchase price, okay, or their asking price, or their after repair value. So depending on how you're running your analysis, you'll use a slightly different value because that's how you're going to justify it. And so, you know, if you're in one of these markets and you have a price and you have the NOI, you can calculate your cap rate and vice versa. So all those three numbers you can calculate. So the reason why I'm saying cap rate is flawed, like it's not the only thing to look at, is because your NOI, okay, your net operating income, is dependent on what you report as your expenses. And if you are a seasoned investor, you will know that when you're selling a property, the seller never gives you 100% of all their expenses. Okay, so you have to take that with a grain of salt. So which is why, as part of your due diligence, you want to ask for at least 2 to 3 to 4 years minimum of reported expenses, so stuff that they filed. But even with that, you need to take that with a grain of salt. Okay, so you want to look at the NOI, and you know, when you're running your analysis, if they tell you, hey, our NOI is 200,000. You want to make sure that they are not using the future market rents, right? So the projected rents, what you could get if it was 100% rented out, and if you were at the market rent today. Okay, there's a discrepancy there because a lot of units are not rented out 100%, and they're not rented out at today's market price. So you need to take that into account, which is why NOI is flawed, okay? And the cap rate can be flawed if you don't understand that concept. Okay, so that's what I want to say about my Uncle Vic. Okay, so with this report, it's the Canada Cap Rate Report. So, you go through it. So I usually will go through a report like this and just get a general sense of what's happening across Canada. Keep in mind that when you look at a report like this, if you are buying in a market that is an hour out of these major cities, your cap rate is going to be slightly higher. Okay, higher. Okay, so keep that in mind. So like if they say that Toronto is a 3% cap rate, well, if you're a couple of hours out of Toronto, like in North Bay, your cap rate's going to be a little bit higher. Okay, and the same thing with anywhere in Alberta, the same thing with in Vancouver as well. Okay, so this is the hotels Q2 cap rate report. So you go through all that. Okay, and this is interesting for me because over the last, I would say, a couple of years, I've been looking at campgrounds, and now I'm looking at hotels, so, part of getting that knowledge is reading these reports that come out. Okay, and this is a free report, so it's not like you have to go and pay for it. Okay, so, so they talk about each of the major cities, and then they go into, so like here's Toronto, okay, and they tell you what's trending. So downtown offices, urban offices, industrial, retail, all of that, multifamily. So I will sort of look at these and be like, okay, the high rises, which is what I'm not doing high rises yet. So I'll look at the low, and you see Toronto, the low is 3.5, the high is 4.5. So depending on what your offer prices or what the seller is asking for, then you can figure out, okay, well, the NOI should be closer to this number. And if it's not, then you can sort of work with that premise. Okay. So, and then they go into, some of the descriptions here. So I will usually just go through this report. I'm not investing in Montreal just because the legals are different in Montreal, Quebec. And so, I have people in Montreal that I know, and I may look at an opportunity there, but I really, that's not my focal point. So I don't really spend any time reading the Montreal updates. I'm based in Vancouver now. So Vancouver is one of the areas that I'm looking at actively, along with anything between here to Calgary, along the major highways. So I will look at this particular page, and I'm looking at properties along the major highways. So like in Vernon, in Cranbrook. So one of our sessions, we looked at Cranbrook. And so I will look at these numbers and sort of make a mental note that, okay, well, if I'm in Cranbrook, I'm not going to be at, 3.25 to 4.25 cap rate. I may be closer to the 5 to 6 cap rate. Okay. And yeah, so because I'm looking at multifamily there and also retail there as well. Okay. So now, as you can see, as you go up, like as you change the type of asset you're buying, the cap rate changes as well. But you're going from 3.25 to let's say 6.5. Okay, so the range is pretty tight, but that range, even though it's tight, we're potentially talking about millions of dollars, depending on how big the asset is, right? So I was looking at what was it? I think it was $12 million out in Alberta, and just a 1% cap rate was about $1 million. Okay, like just adjusting and playing around with the cap rates was like $1 million difference between each percentage point. So you want to take that into consideration, that even though the percentage point might not be that big, it does represent a huge dollar amount. It could represent a huge dollar amount. Okay, so then as you can see, this is like 20 pages. We're only on page 6 of this document. Okay, so you know, this document does take time to go through, so I wouldn't rush it. And when I first started out, I was going through these documents and sort of highlighting stuff that I didn't understand, and then calling one of my real estate friends and saying, hey, what does this mean? And then I would also reach out to a mortgage agent, because mortgage agents deal with cap rates, they deal with industry trends. If they are a seasoned investor mortgage agent, they will be able to answer some of your questions that you have on this. Okay, so that was Calgary, and then Edmonton. Okay, so you just go through. So I do actively invest in Edmonton. So that would be one page that I would look at. Ottawa as well as another area that I look at. Okay, so you can see here for multifamily, like Ottawa is a little bit higher than Vancouver, but Ottawa is still a great place to invest in. Okay, and I'm going to do a big shout out to Mark Dupree, who is in Ottawa. Okay, Winnipeg, there we go. So all the major cities. So keep in mind that when you're looking at the major cities, right, these reports are not going to go out to the secondary or tertiary markets. So when you use this data, you have to take it with a grain of salt if you're in secondary and tertiary market. So this goes, and the reason why I'm bringing this point up again is because I was speaking to a junior investor last week, and he was applying the primary city cap rates, the primary dollars for door, the cost per door, like everything that was for the major city, he was applying it to this tertiary market. Okay, you don't want to do that. Okay, because one, you're going to overpay. And if you overpay, you're going to lose money. Okay, you make money on the purchase. Okay, so meaning that you want to make sure that you're buying it at a great price. If you overbuy, you're going to be spending years catching up on that difference. Okay. All right. Yeah, I do have to keep my eye on the clock, because otherwise I will keep talking, because I am living and breathing real estate. Okay, so let me go to the next report, because this is pretty much the same thing, like every single city and so forth. Okay, so this one here, this one is the exact same thing. Okay, so this is also from Colliers. It's the 2022 report. Okay, the reason why I'm bringing this up so that you could see both reports is that if you're reading the reports and you follow the trend every single year, you're going to see how the market's doing, and you can anticipate what is potentially going to be coming. Okay, I'm not saying that reading these reports will give you a crystal ball, but it will give you a sense of what is happening around your market. Okay, and so this one is the older version of the report, but it will also tell you what's happening around. Okay, so that is one type of report that I go to, and so I want to bring that up, share some ways that I go about getting my information. Okay, so let me go in here and see if we can unshare the screen here. Okay. All right. Okay, so I do have a couple questions that came through, so I want to make sure that we, let me see, stop share. Okay, there we go. Okay, you guys got my big eye in the corner there. Okay, all right. So let me go to, oh, let me share the update on the Stansbury property, which is an 8-plex in Vancouver that I was looking at. That building needed quite a bit of renovations. And so it took me a bit of time to come around on finding a solution that would work on that property, because it really was the land value plus a little bit for the building, because that building needed so much renovations. And, you know, when I was talking to the agent, and, you know, there was no flexibility on the pricing, there was no, you know, willingness to do a VTB, there was no assumable mortgage. Okay. So by the time I came up with an offer that seemed reasonable with the agent, okay, with my agent, we went to put the offer in. They had already just accepted an offer a couple of days prior to. So what that, you know, tells me is that the sellers were willing to work, but they weren't willing to budge on the price. They weren't willing to do a VTB, and there was no assumable, right? So as an investor coming in, it didn't make sense for me to be at their price point because it would have been too high, okay? My offer still would have been lower than what the final offer is. So we'll see how that works out. Okay, the next deal that I want to share with you is the North Battleford property. This was the one that I found on the broadcast, which was fantastic. And it had an assumable mortgage on it, which was really great. Now, I phoned the agent, got the information, ran my analysis, phoned him the very next day to say, hey, I want to put an offer in. It was gone. Like, just somebody else had beat me to it. Okay, so the learning there is that if you find a property that you like, that you think the numbers would work, put a conditional offer in. Okay, so now in my case, that North Battleford one was a 24-hour thing. So there, there really wasn't anything else I could have done with that. Okay, but the Stansbury one, could I have done that differently? Yeah, I could have. I could have completely given the high price and then worked my way down, but I'm not one to waste other people's time, right? So I usually go in at a price that I know will make sense. And then depending on how the due diligence works, then I may come down a little bit on the price, but usually I will stick to the price that I put in. Okay, because at that point I've already made it work, and it's like on paper it works. So I would only adjust the price if the due diligence warrants me coming down on the price. Okay, so let me go to a couple of the questions here. So yeah, so good. We've got about 10 minutes or so to answer some questions. So this one comes in, how do I split equity in a JV? Okay, so my understanding of this question is that if you're setting up a JV and you want to split the equity on it, okay, and actually, you know what, that's interesting because there's a couple of other questions that came through that's around JVs and stuff like that. So how do you split equity in a JV? And this one is, should I bring in a partner on this purchase or buy this on my own? Okay, so I'm going to answer those two questions together because here's the thing. If you can buy the property on your own, if you can get the funding on your own, if you can close it on your own, if you can manage it with your own team, I would say do it on your own. Okay, a lot of my coaches say, Huong, no, you want to share. Okay, but here's the thing. If you bring in a partner, you have to deal with that partner. It's like another marriage. So if you can acquire the property, do the funding, manage it with the team on your own, manage it on your own, do it 100% on your own. Okay. If you cannot do it on your own, meaning that if the property requires you to have a net worth on paper and you can't qualify, then you need to bring somebody in. Okay. If you need to put in all of your liquid cash to make this work, then I would say, you know what, you might want to bring in a partner so that you spread your risk across multiple buildings and you don't tie up all your cash. Okay. So if you can, so you're going to want to run those scenarios and say, okay, if I bring in a partner, okay, does that make my life easier or harder? Okay. And usually if you're bringing in a partner, it has to give you a benefit. Okay. Meaning that person who's going to come in is either one, going to manage it and do all the work for you, so you don't have to, so you're very passive, or they're going to qualify for the mortgage. Okay, because if you're starting out in real estate, you're not going to be able to potentially qualify for $4 million, $10 million. Like, you're going to need somebody with a higher net worth. Okay, and then if you're going to put in all of your cash, that's taking too much risk, because you're going to need cash for closing, like the closing costs. You're going to need cash for renovations. There's unforeseen costs that is above the 5% estimated closing costs. Okay, so I always suggest that you have at least a minimum of 10% liquid cash available to you. Okay, from all your portfolios, from all your lines of credits, cash, credit cards, everything, you want to make sure that you have at least 10% liquidity. okay, across your whole portfolio. If you don't, then definitely bring in a money partner or bring in another partner to help alleviate some of that access to cash. Okay, now if you can spread your risk over several properties, that's a better strategy than to put everything into one building. Okay, even if you're really good at your due diligence, there's stuff that's out of your control when it comes to a property. Okay, okay, and then the other thing I would say is, you know, if you're doing a property on your own, make sure you have a team that you trust that can help you run the property properly. So like a general contractor, a property manager, accountants, lawyers. If you don't have that, then bringing in another partner may help you with that. Okay, so now if you bring in a partner, what is a fair split? Okay, so, or how should you do it? The way I would look at it is what is fair for them and for me. So if I'm bringing in a money partner, my question is, okay, how soon will they get their money back? Is it 3 years? Is it 5 years? And that time frame, is it reasonable? Okay, if I'm going to bring in a partner and it's going to take them 10 years to get their money back, there's no way they're going to do it. Okay, so you want to make sure, one, that it's fair and reasonable. So the time frame, what's the return on investment? What's their involvement with this opportunity? Okay, so you want to look at those three things along with, like, okay, do I know this person well enough to have conversations with them every day? You know, even if they are passive, you still want to be able to reach out to them if you need help. Okay, so that's how I would answer those two questions. Okay, so this one, I can't access my equity for two reasons. One, I'm out of the country, and two, I don't make enough money to qualify. Okay, so I would say right off the bat that being out of the country is not the issue, is that if you don't even qualify for extra equity, well, then you can't tap into equity. That's just how it works. Is there an alternative solution? I'm thinking of selling, and I think I will be better off in the long term to pay the mortgage off and keep it. Okay. So without having numbers, it's hard for me to agree or disagree. Okay, I am a big believer in keeping your property if you can, because you've already gone through the trouble of buying it. And as long as it's cash flowing, as long as it's in a good appreciation area, it might make sense to keep it. Okay, so my question for you would be, is the property cash flowing? If it's cash flowing, if it's in a good appreciation area, then yes, I would say maybe run the analysis in the scenario of keeping it. Okay, even if you cannot refinance to get your equity out from your primary lender, you may be able to go to a private lender. Okay, so some private lenders are, you know, they're a lot higher now, like 10, 12% in second position. So you would want to run your analysis to make sure that you can take that money at 10, 12 plus all their fees and go and do another opportunity that's going to generate that plus whatever your gain is going to be to make it worth your while to take that risk. Okay. You can also maybe approach somebody who has an RRSP or TFSA account and have them lend you that money. The reason why I'm saying that is because, you know, most people aren't making that good of a return on their RSPs and TFSAs, like maybe 5, 6%. So you're going to want to find people like that who aren't into real estate, who aren't making a big return on their RSPs or TFSAs, and say, hey, you know, you could put your RSP or TFSA on my property and I'll pay you 8%. Okay, so they have collateral, so they have some sort of protection, and they're making more than what they would in a traditional RRSP or TFSA account. Okay, so if you need more information about that, let me know. I'm happy to expand on that portion. I'm a big believer in private lending, so I do that quite a bit. Okay, so private lending would be one. Yeah, if you decide to, so if you do the private lending, just make sure that you do have somewhere to put that money that's going to generate whatever that expense is plus the gain. Okay, now that expense that you're taking out, the interest that you pay on that private lender, keep in mind that that should be a tax deductible expense. So yes, you get to write that off, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're making a gain. Okay, so now if you sell it, make sure you sell it and take that money to level up. So run your numbers, make sure that when you sell, you're selling it at a profit. If you're selling it and you're just breaking even, okay, then you need to consider, okay, well, it's not really giving me any gain, so do I really want to sell it? If you sell it and it's making you a profit, then you want to make sure that you take that profit and you're leveling up in a better property or a better investment. Okay, you don't want to sell it, okay, and then take that cash and then go and buy a car, go and buy a doodad. Okay, basically. So just a word of caution there. Okay, so okay, yeah, so yeah, and I just want to comment on that part, that one reason that, oh, I'm not in the country, so I can't access the equity. I'm not sure that that's the full reason, because I've traveled before, like for extended periods of time outside of Canada, and I've been able to refinance my properties. And so it's not just a renewal, like a renewal is easy. You just sign the paperwork. It doesn't matter where you are. Okay. But with the refinancing, I've done that with me being outside of Canada, and I've been able to refinance. So I don't think that that's the issue that you're facing. I think what you're facing is because you don't qualify, like under the new stress test, under the new interest rates, you just don't qualify for that extra equity, okay? Which is why maybe doing a private lender might work for you. Okay, so that's what I would say about that. If if you're in a place where there's no appreciation, okay, you may want to sell it, and especially if you're not cash flowing, you might want to sell it and just get that off your books. Okay, open up that that space in your borrowing power to be able to go and get another mortgage for another property that might be better. Okay, so like a lot of individuals who have properties in Fort Mac, right, their properties are valued lower than what the mortgage amount is. So keep in mind that you may be cash flowing with your rent, which I doubt in that place, but if you sell it, you may not actually see any gain. Okay, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let me do okay, let me do one more question here. So this one was actually a question that came through from one of my assistants. So Huong, why are we looking at hotels and gas stations instead of multi-family? So yeah, because I've got my team looking at hotels and gas stations. So we're looking at hotels, the hotel business plus land, we're looking at the gas station plus land, and we're also looking at multifamilies. She came in is, why are we looking at gas stations plus land or hotel plus land, right? And not just focusing on multifamily. So here's the thing. One of the reasons is because I'm looking my is to family, right? Yes, everybody's always going to need a place to live, okay? But if the rental market changes, I've got everything in multifamily, okay? So that's one of the reasons why I'm looking at hotels, looking at gas stations, looking at something different within real estate, is to diversify the real estate portfolio. So that's one reason. The other reason is that with multifamily, the income, the rental incomes from there, that is treated as passive income. It's not active, okay? Only the property management that is managing that team, their income would be active. But the rental income coming in, that's treated as passive income, okay? So now this is where you need to touch base with your accountant to make sure that this strategy is right for you, okay? So whereas the gas station plus land, or the hotel plus land, or a commercial plus land, that is active income, right? Because the idea there is that we're going to manage the hotel, we're going to manage the gas station. And so all of that income is going to be active income. Okay, so it's a different type of taxation. And so at the end of the day, one, we're diversifying, and two, we're going to so the return on investment in a hotel and gas station on paper isn't as high as a multifamily. But once you do the taxation, once you take into all of the potential growth that we can have in a hotel or a gas station or a retail business with plus land, there's so much potential growth there that it's up to us to make that growth. Okay. And so then that growth, that income is active, and that active income is treated differently when it comes to taxation. So at the end of the day, we should be making more money, if not the same, as a multifamily. Okay, so that is all the comments and questions that I'm going to answer today. So I still have a backup of questions here. So I will hold those off till next week. So I will be back here next week, same time, same place. So thank you for joining me. If you want to hop onto a one-on-one because you have some questions that you think is private, or you want to just bounce something back, use the UR code up here and schedule a time. I'm happy to chit chat and see how I can help you in your real estate journey. Okay, thank you, everybody. Have an awesome day.